Okay, so we heard about a cyber
really
attack
good.
today.
It's delicious.
They're about to say it's called the servers. What happens is foreign servers come in and they blast these sites, so it feels like it's fake traffic. It feels like it's real traffic, and it blocks everyone else's use. But today, Amazon, Netflix, Tumblr, Twitter, Spotify, a bunch of other Airbnb, a few other, even
what about
PayPal.
Grindr?
PayPal, I don't know about that one.
What?
PayPal had
I don't even know what it is.
service problems, interruptions, and they're trying to figure out right now if it's a
Dana.
nation state.
What's wrong
You have
with you?
no idea what's going on. No, this is very hard to finish. You don't know what Grindr is? Wait, can we say?
Can we start over
wanted
again?
to know if Grindr was involved.
I mouthed it to her. Yeah. I didn't know what it was.
You are so inappropriate.
I just hear you and Howard hanging out with Gutfeld. Kimberly, can you save us?
It's a sandwich. You order a Grindr
Right.
chili. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. What's the other one?
My turn now? All right.
Knee-jerks to manage the news cycle.
Wait a minute. There was a strategy in 2 administrations, including Obama's, that said we're going to train the Iraqi army and we're going to put them out there to take care of themselves, and they're gutlessly running with our equipment, leaving it behind. And so don't tell me this is all Obama's fault. The fact is the Iraqis, we put our money on Malaki. He's a crook. He's a bum. He found out. And look at these soldiers.
You don't think that President Obama had anything to do with Malaki's re-election in 2010?
I think
During
no.
that?
You guys said it was a fair and open election.
No, Bob, you're just making my point.
No, but where did Malaki come from? When was he put in?
Malaki won an election, and then
where
he
did
won a
Malaki come
re-election
from?
in 2010.
Where did he come from? Where was he originally introduced into Iraq?
Why? This is like the weirdest academic exercise that we're having this week.
Why?
Why? Because does anything you're saying actually matter? So the fact that the Iraqi army, I can agree with you, the Iraqi army is not up to par. Okay, fine, but now you have all of these ISIS terrorists that are overrunning the country.
Strategy. Wait a minute. You keep saying there's no strategy. The strategy was to make these guys a strong army. There's supposedly 100,000 of them. If they can't take these guys on, they're gutless. They're gutless, and the strategy of your administration and my administration failed.
Okay, so then we have to do something about it.
That's right. Get rid of Malaki and people like that who was put in there before Obama was elected.
And re-elected in 2010.
Deep breath.
Facebook Friday, next on the 5. We are really looking forward to answering your questions.
You said the B word.
How could the vice president earlier in the administration argue he didn't have to turn over records about the Energy Task Force, for example, because he was a member of the executive branch?
Well, you could ask the Supreme Court who ruled in his favor.
But he did not say I'm a member of the legislative branch as well, so I don't have to. I mean, he clearly stated that there was strong executive power and he didn't have to turn over these records. Now, when it suits his interest, he seems to be saying a different legal argument.
No, look, I'm not a legal scholar, and there's plenty of them that you can find in Washington, D.C., but just that very point that you're making there shows that he has functions in both the executive branch and the legislative branch.
But he didn't mention those functions, both dual functions, in the earlier legal arguments at the beginning of the administration. He's only used the executive branch arguments.
Look, you can try to call his office and try to get more information. I'm not opining on his argument. In the executive order, the president and the vice president are discharged separately from agencies, in which it would be awkward if the president who is the supervisor of this office, was asking that office to come and investigate himself. And in this executive order, the president is saying that the vice president is not different than him.
When did he decide that? Just in 2003? I mean, he
in terms of the executive order, I need to go back.
Did it for a couple of years before that. He just was doing that out of the good of his heart, or?
I think so.
Just lastly, it's a little surreal. I mean, how is it possible that
You're telling me
that you can't give an opinion about whether the vice president is part of the executive branch or not?
Look, all I know is that
it's a little bit like someone saying, "I don't know if this is my wife or not."
I think it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Well, no, but honestly, I mean, there's no.
No, honestly, I think it's more complicated than that. I do.
But Dana, one difference is from this podium came the explanation that the president never intended
for this to apply to the vice president. When there was communication from the counsel of the vice president's office to ISO, the rationale was different. It was that there was a split in the duties, the role of the vice president, and that's where we're getting this. He's part of the legislative and the executive. So it seems that there was not, everybody wasn't on the same page when they were first responding to the National Archives.
I don't know that to necessarily be true, but I can see if I can get from the Vice President's office more of an explanation, because they could have been thinking of one and the same argument, and I don't have the legal mind that can draw those two together.
For 200 plus years, everybody from civics class on up has had a certain understanding of the way our government works. And this EO clarifies more than 200 years of constitutional scholarship about the way our system works?
I think that, I mean, maybe it's me, but I think that everyone's making this a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. The president writes an executive order. He says to agencies...
Where the vice president says that there's a question about whether or not he's part of the executive.
And the point I was trying to make for you before is that I think that for the past 2 centuries, the Senate has provided payment to the vice president for his duties as a member of the government. And I'm just saying that he has roles in both branches. I don't think that it's as clear-cut as you're trying to make it.
The Vice President of the United States is...
He has function. I think that there's no denying that he has functions in both the legislative and the executive branches. That is a fact.
But it seems like the Vice President is saying he's not responsible for the rules of either of those.
Yeah.
No, I think that he's saying, especially when it comes to the executive branch, is that the duties that he's given are given to him solely by the President of the United States. And some vice presidents don't do as much as he does in the realm of national security or in policy development as this vice president does. But this vice president was given executive duties to handle.
How is being a part of another branch, I guess it's debatable, but how is that an out?
It's not. That's irrelevant, because the president never intended for the vice president to be subject to the executive order.
The office of the vice president introduces that into the argument, into the debate. Well, we're not part of the executive branch.
I think that is also a fact. And as I said to Kelly, I'll see if I can get more from the vice president's office to see how they connected the two, or if they didn't.
He can argue he's part of both, but he can't possibly argue that he's part of neither. And it seems like he's saying he's part of neither.
Okay.
You don't have an opinion on that?
You have me thoroughly confused.
And welcome back to Hannity. Now, I hate to say it, but we did warn you, and now the disastrous implications of Obamacare, they're starting to be felt all across the country. Now, before we give you the latest numbers, first, let's listen to the president in his own words as he tried to sell you, the American people, on Obamacare. Remember this.
Nothing in this plan will require you or your employer to change the coverage of the doctor you have. That's why my proposal builds on the current system, where most Americans get their health insurance from their employer. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan.
We will start by reducing premiums by as much as $2,500 per family.
That's why I met with representatives of insurance and drug companies, doctors and hospitals, and labor unions who are pledging to do their part to reduce health care costs.
Our cost-cutting measures mirror most of the proposals in the current Senate bill, which reduces most people's premiums and brings down our deficit by up to $1 trillion over the next decade, because we're spending our health care dollars more wisely.
Now, unfortunately, none of that is true. Now, here are just the latest examples from this week that prove our point. Now, thanks to Obamacare in California, individual premiums will increase as much as 146%, a staggering figure. But that's not all. According to the latest CBO report, millions of people will remain uninsured despite Obamacare. Now, the CBO projects that in the next 10 years, 31 million people still will not have health insurance. Joining me now with reaction from the Fox Business Network, our friend Stuart Varney, the co-host of the Five, also our friend Dana Perino. Well, apparently, either those numbers are right, either Obama's numbers are right, or the actuary numbers are right. What do you think?
I'm going to go with the actuary.
Yeah.
That's usually probably pretty good advice. Without even trying, the negatives for Obamacare are still at around 55%. I think that's probably even a little bit low. That was the most recent poll that came out. And what you have is the failure of hope over experience. As it's playing out, the hope part of what they thought was going to happen is not happening, and it won't before the deadline of 2014.
Look at these headlines, Stuart. Rate shock in California, Obamacare to increase individual health insurance by up to 146%. CBO, uninsured under Obamacare, never falls below 30 million. Right. What does that mean? Is there a chance that's going to get overturned?
No. Chance that it's overturned?
No.
I see an opportunity here to defund the IRS as the police force of Obamacare. And if you can defund the IRS, get them out of the coercion business of Obamacare, you can backdoor defund Obamacare and stop it in its tracks. And after what we've seen today, these IRS scandals, I think we've got a good shot at getting the political support to say to the IRS, you are not going to be part of Obamacare at all. Get out of it. And that allows us to stop Obamacare in its tracks.
How many people are supposed to be hired just for the implementation?
There's a lot of
16,000.
Thousands. And in fact, one of the things that HHS said today is that they're going to make sure that every document of Obamacare is available in 150 languages. Now, maybe that is something we should be doing as a government, but I also think that there was a much better way to improve health insurance. And what happened is with this is that they got all the good stuff up front. So if you were worried about your child and they were coming out of college, didn't have a job yet, and you worried about them and health insurance, well, now that's okay because they can be on until they're 26. All that stuff people liked about the bill was at the beginning. Now when the bill is coming due, former Speaker Pelosi had to put out a 78-page document to help convince members to go home and tell everybody how great it is.
It's socialized medicine. Look, I'm an Englishman, born and raised in Britain. I know all about socialized medicine. I know all about social medical systems that are falling to pieces because they are run by the government. That's what Obamacare is. It must be reversed.
Let's go to the political point, though, that Dana was making. They're trying to go back home over the 4th of July holiday and convince Americans this is really a good thing. They're going to sell it. But by 2014, this goes into place. What is the political fallout?
This is a very difficult thing to sell. Dana's right. The good is they come up front. The bad stuff is beginning to happen right now. Premiums going up. These exchanges will not be in place by October the 1st, and then we'll get the full implementation on January the 1st. It's going to be chaos. The rules aren't written. The plan is not ready.
So Max Marcus is right. What if it's a train wreck?
It is a train wreck.
Assuming it is, and I believe it will be, and I think we're going to have sticker shock for people. So the question then is, what are the political implications? Because this is January of a midterm.
I think the political implications are bad for Democrats. I think that the policy implication is actually even worse for the country. And Chairwoman Marsha Blackburn, Congresswoman from Tennessee, has a proposal to delay it for 1 year because it's not going to be repealed in time to stop the train wreck. But could they get a delay for 1 year so that you could look at some of these actuarial tables, understand it better, and give people some confidence in the system? I think that is something that the House Republicans should move.
I disagree. I think let the country have their medicine, and then that's the only way you probably will get repealed.
I think chaos is coming. That will be the medicine, and there will be a political reaction to that. But the way to really short-circuit this thing is to get the IRS out of Obamacare, so they cannot be the force of coercion pushing you into it.
And replace it with what? I mean, that's the thing. That's always the answer. They're like, just like
medical savings accounts.
Tort reform. Get the market in place.
Medical savings accounts are great. I would love for everybody to have one, but it's not going to do the job that the IRS
You know what Kathleen Sebelius said today about this poor, sick 10-year-old girl?
I've been seeing her a lot lately.
Yes,
she's got a lot of things on her plate.
Apparently, she has a secret email account.
But she says it's not really that secret. But I think that the Associated Press is the one reporting on questions.
Isn't that true of a lot of senior officials? They've got private, personal email accounts, and you can't get at them?
We got to go.
No, that's not true.
I love when you two fight. Why didn't you fight at the beginning? You should have fought at the beginning of the segment.
We could have had this out.
Next week, we can argue about this next week.
All right. Thanks, guys. And
raise. Nick, welcome to the program. Big fan of yours.
Thank you.
I love your show.
Of course you do.
I watch it religiously.
Yes.
Meaning with an altar boy. Yeah. Does having an armed security guard, because we talk about this all the time, does that mean you can't have an opinion on gun control? Can you explain it away?
You can have an opinion. It might be a stupid one, but you can have one. I mean, the thing about Jim Carrey's argument is that the gun that his armed bodyguard is carrying probably killed more people than any of the guns that he's been raving about in that video. So it's kind of stupid.
It is kind of stupid. I like your common sense approach.
Yes.
I also like your hat.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. It's a Rush hat. Has 2 meanings.
What are the 2 meanings?
Well, I'll just let you figure that out.
Rush, the locker room drug I used to buy in the 80s. No kidding. Dana!
Rush, Rush, the Paula Abdul song?
Oh, my God. What a beautiful song.
Keanu makes a cameo in the video.
I had some great moments on the prom with that song. Jeremy, call me. Dana, you're around a lot of guns. In fact, you're probably packing right now. Is it hypocritical to be a vocal gun critic while you have somebody protecting you? Or is that just the nature of the game? When you become famous, you have a bodyguard?
In Jim Carrey's case, it doesn't make him a hypocrite. It makes him a
wow.
Because, look. Here's
Dana Perino!
My ears are bleeding.
Here's my big. Will you bleep that? But here's my biggest problem with it, is that he goes after somebody who can't defend himself. He goes after Charlton Heston, who passed away.
Yes.
And it doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't. Does he think any one of his fans knows that Charlton Heston won all the great movies he did, and that he was the president of the NRA for 5 years? They don't know that, so he's basically making fun of somebody who can't come back and defend themselves. If he would have gone after somebody like. Nick Searcy.
Ted Nugent.
Yeah, right.
Why not Ted Nugent? He's
because
alive.
He's a scared little.
Yes, yes. By the way, I mean, going after Charlton Heston, this was the guy who realized that Soylent Green was people. Jim Carrey is not smart enough to figure out that Soylent Green was people, and he had a hot girlfriend in The Omega Man. One of the first interracial relationships on in any movie, and he also marched for civil rights. What have you done, Jim Carrey, except stupid anti-vaccine panics? Jesse, you're the manager of the Hot Topic paintball team.
Yeah.
Is Carrey still a hypocrite for having security?
Well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate those of you at home who are playing the red-eye drinking game who just lost because I wasn't the first one to say on the show. So, there's that.
But you're the second.
But drink.
Do all the White House secretaries talk that way?
Well, as you'll know, I've given up any pretense of having any semblance of a good reputation since I've come on this show. And whereas I used to have a real job, now I comment on cat videos and things like that on Red Eye.
Nice. That's a real job.
Well, it's working at the moment.
We actually have tape of Dana having that realization on Red Eye and having a complete breakdown, and then moving on.
I really was kind of crying.
You were crying. Jesse, thoughts?
There was a question there.
The question was...
No, it's fine. I'm not going to listen to it
Did
anyway.
a transient steal your tie? That was the question.
I'm maitre d'-ing later. Well, see, Jim Carrey, what he just did is he revealed the weakness in his security detail, and he pointed out the fact that his security guard has a 9mm, pointing out that it doesn't have a lot of bullets.
Yes.
And in fact, it doesn't. It has 15. So, all you got to do is go after Jim Carrey with 16 dudes. Right?
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I don't know 16 dudes.
Look, I'm not Danny
anymore.
Ocean.
In your basement.
Yes. Those days are behind me, Danny. You know that. Bill, Jim Carrey said he's okay with guns if they're used to shoot you in the face.
Why do you go to that tape? I'm not just buying these just based on your questions.
Look. I just report the things that are sent to me over the internet.
Well, I'm not going to defend him then, because he wants to shoot me in the face. Jim Carrey just needs to get the right bodyguard. A bodyguard that doesn't need a gun. I, myself, am skilled in both the arts of war and military tactics. Call me. That's from Philip in Braveheart. He was the war counselor to the prince. I don't remember what happened to him at the end of the scene, but I'm sure it was awesome.
You're such a name dropper.
You really?
He was my favorite character in it. Also the most gorgeous. And we had similar hair.
And also one of your close friends.
Yes. He's I'm a name dropper. He fell out a window.
Great scene. Hey, so Nick, should Hollywood say anything about this? This is the thing that drives me nuts. Chuck Heston was a great guy, and I know as an actor you must love. Chuck was a guy. Are they just hoping that this thing kind of goes away, or should somebody just tell Jim Carrey, you're a
Well, I don't think it's going to come from Hollywood. I mean, you know, basically what Jim Carrey's doing is standing up and saying what 99% of the room that he's in agrees with.
Right.
So and then they all pat themselves on the back for being brave.
What do you think about the fact that about guns in the movies, where they make a ton of money off of that, but making fun of rural America as well at the same time?
Well, I don't even know what to think about it. It just seems like such an intellectual disconnect there. It doesn't make any sense at all. But the people in Hollywood don't see it. They just, it's cognitive dissonance, you know. They don't get it.
Do they know that word?
I made it up.
I like that's a good word. It's named my new club. The thing that drives me crazy, and this is for anybody, is the fact that he keeps, Jim Carrey keeps retweeting teenagers who agree with him.
Well, I do that too.
Do you really? Yes.
I retweet death threats.
Yes, you do.
I want people to know.
Yeah, exactly, in case you show up dead.
Yeah,
these are all from me.
I don't retweet. I just follow teenagers in person who agree with me. That's what I try to do.
From a distance of 5 blocks.
You might get arrested
say
for that.
you made this is just a simple white shirt and a jacket, and you already got a hit in on me on that.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Bill Schultz is wearing the AIDS quilt, and you didn't say a single thing about that. And I don't know how
it is
that's possible.
All right.